I think I
Yeah.
have, but you know what? I am not as tech savvy as I should be, and so sometimes on my
Yeah.
Facebook it isn't sharing. So just give me 1 second. Just let me look.
Okay.
Meantime, can you tell me how is the virus in South Africa? What's going on there right now?
Well, we are in second wave, actually exiting the second wave. We had the first one mid 2020, and in December and January we had a second wave, but it was much shorter. And that second wave was informed by the new variant. As you know, you've probably heard they're talking about the new variant.
So
So, but
are you guys in lockdown as a result of the new variant? Are people scared?
we are in lockdown level 3, so we can still do a certain things, but there are some limitations. And we have now about 68,000 cases in the country. And yesterday we got about 1,300 new cases. So it is an incredible decrease.
What's the
You know,
population of South Africa?
60 million people plus
So,
minus.
so that's a limited number compared to the population.
Yeah, very, very small. And we're thankful for that. And currently we don't have a vaccine that works for that. But we're just glad that, the second wave is disappearing. They said a third wave could possibly come
Right.
in June in our winter. But
Mhm.
yeah. And how are you? How's things in America?
I'm fantastic. If you watch CNN, then you'll know what's happening in America with the virus. We didn't address it, and when I say we, I mean the Trump administration didn't
Mm,
address it as quickly as possible. And I think that the concern for the economy, I think, is more than
right,
concern for the lives of people. And so that the economy has driven the behavior and the action, I think,
mm,
more so than public health. Yeah.
okay.
But
Oh, well,
there are reductions in terms of hospitalizations in Rhode Island where I live, and so
right.
that's promising. But with the new variant, it is something to be concerned about, and so
Yeah,
it's so
absolutely.
interesting to be existing in a global pandemic. But we're lucky because 100 years ago we didn't have this kind of technology. I probably would
Mm,
have to be trying to send a telegram if I want to contact anybody in South Africa. And so
right,
we're experiencing pandemic in sort of a high-end style because we have these
right,
technologies at our disposal where we can still connect with
right.
people. And I think a lot of us are not as grateful for that, or we're not alert to how lucky we are to be existing in this century at this time. Uh,
Right.
during a health crisis when we actually have information. Yeah.
Mm. Okay. Well, Professor Hume Johnson is with me tonight, and everybody, I have told you about her, and I am so excited that we finally have her.
Yeah.
And I just want to tell everybody, if you are in South Africa, you know about load shedding. So right now, if you see my screen a little bit dark, it's because we're in load shedding. So in somewhere in the middle of the interview, the power might just come back, and we might
So it's
just get
off
some
now.
light.
So what are you using?
Right.
What are you using?
I'm using these.
You have a lantern. You know what? Years ago in Jamaica,
Right,
I'm Jamaican for the benefit of your audience.
right.
Years ago in Jamaica, we had load shedding a lot. So the power grid couldn't maintain the
Right.
electricity for the entire country. It's a small country, only 2.8 million
Mm.
people, and a very small land mass compared to South Africa. But we had similar issues. It's interesting in the 21st century, there's still that issue.
Yeah. Uh, by the way, you shared with me that you've been to South Africa before. So can you
Yeah.
just share us a little bit about your experience here?
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, it was one of the most transformative experiences of my life. I had never been to Africa, the continent, before. And so one day, out of the blue, I decided I wanted to visit South Africa. And one of the reasons that the pull factor, one would say, is the Brand South Africa project. The South African government had sponsored the International Marketing Council, and you had these brilliant people who were looking at different ways in which they could reimagine the image of South Africa. Because at the time, like Jamaica, the image of South Africa was about apartheid and the legacies of that. And it was about crime. And Nelson Mandela became this awesome image that was a positive force. And so they were trying to use his image to kind of remake the image of the country in the eyes of the world. And I thought that was a fascinating exercise. And at the time I was doing some research on nation branding, particularly looking at brand Jamaica, because our brand as a country is still mostly tourism centric. And I thought that the people and our culture, which is what we are known for. When you talk to people, they know the culture. And we through the Jamaica Tourist Board, we were focusing on the aesthetics of the country, the beaches. We still are.
Right.
And I thought that was problematic. And we also had similar governance challenges that you guys were having, like crime. And so I thought South Africa was a great comparative study. So I reached out to the people at Brand South Africa team, and they agreed to meet me. And so, yeah, and I had a friend there, and he was the Deputy High Commissioner of Jamaica to South Africa, he and his wife.
Oh, awesome.
And so I stayed with them in Pretoria. And I also went to Cape Town.
Yes,
Had a horrible experience on a plane coming back from Cape Town to Johannesburg. I thought my body would be left in South Africa. It was crazy. But I went to Soweto. I went to the Apartheid Museum. I cried. I think just every Black person on the face of the earth should experience the South African culture, particularly the Apartheid Museum. I thought it was well done, well executed. The emotional experience of it, I thought was transformative. And
wow.
I did safari as well. I went to walk with lions. Lion cubs they were, but they were equally dangerous. And yes, I will never forget that experience in South Africa. I hope to return. I'm very fascinated.
Yes, I hope you return, and we have to get together. We have to do something together.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that would really be awesome. I already told you, Jamaica is fun. You have music, you have dancing, you have athletes, you have very brilliant, intelligent people. So I want to see that country. Yeah.
So we're ready
for the sake of
whenever you're ready.
Thank you. So for the sake of our listeners, I just want to read your bio in short, and then we're going to jump into the questions.
Absolutely.
So, ladies and gentlemen, those who are watching, we have incredible talent with us tonight, and I'm quite sure you're going to learn a lot. So, Dr. Hume Johnson is a personal branding strategy consultant, associate professor of communications at Roger Williams University at Rhode Island in the United States. She's an author of the book Brand You, which we're going to talk a lot about tonight. And through her consulting LLC, Dr. Johnson helps leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs to define and mobilize their personal brand and communicate their message with clarity, confidence, and credibility. Now, just looking at her background, she is a former broadcast journalist, a publicist for reggae icon Tony Rebel, and political speechwriter with the government of Jamaica. She holds a PhD in political science from the University of Waikato in New Zealand. In her research and scholarship, she explores civil society and governance in developing countries, as well as the brand image of nation states. In other words, nation branding. She's a recognized political analyst. Her commentary has appeared on the BBC, NBC, CBS, CBC, the Jamaica Gleaner, Television Jamaica, and O Globo Brazil. She's taught journalism before at James Cook University, Australia. She's currently a contributing writer for the popular business publication Entrepreneur Magazine. And ladies, that is just her bio in short. This lady is on fire, okay? And she's a Black person, and I am so proud of the work that you do. You came from Jamaica, you are doing amazing. And I see a woman who is not defined by any limitation. She is confident and yet so kind. So thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity. We've spoken before with her, very humble. And when you look at her CV, you'll actually be amazed, you know. So thank you so much for being with us. And for those who are meeting me for the first time, I am Dr. Nthabeleng Rammile. I'm based in South Africa.
I think when you say your first name so fast, the people who are watching on this side don't get it. And
Okay, I have to say slow.
Nthabeleng, right? Nthabeleng.
Right. And you know what I love about you is you got my name right the first time I said it. A lot of people.
I was trained to say foreign names.
Okay.
It did not just come naturally. I was trained as a broadcaster, and names were part of the exercise.
Yeah, I was very, very impressed by that. So I am Nthabeleng Rammile. My name means be happy for me. I think when I was born, that's what my mom was saying. I have a girl, finally, be happy for me, you know?
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Nthabe. It's beautiful.
Yes, short Nthabi, but long is Nthabeleng. So you can call me Nthabi. That is fine with me. Yeah. So I work as a personal branding coach, and I'm also an executive coach. I have my own business, Dr. Nthabi speaking, and I connected with Professor Johnson on the basis of personal branding because she is amazing with personal branding. She's written an incredible book, Brand You. We're going to touch a lot on it, and it is available on Amazon. I got it on Kindle. It's brilliant, you know, one of the best that I've read so far. So yeah, there it is. Beautiful piece of work. I love it. Yes. Yeah. So Dr. Hume, let's just start with maybe a very basic.
Actually, when you say Hume, it takes me right back to rural Jamaica, my village of Claremont in St. Anne. But the correct pronunciation is Hume.
Okay, Dr. Hume. Yes. Everybody, I hope you're hearing that. It's Dr. Hume. I'm not as good as she is with names, but I'm quite sure this time I've got it. Dr. Hume.
Quite fine.
Yeah. So let's just start with this one. What does it mean to brand yourself as a person?
Well, your personal brand is you. When you think of it, YOU, it's just who you are. So you're not literally branding yourself as a person, you're already a brand. Because your brand is a totality of your personality, your reputation, your skills, your talents, your gifts, your values, your experience, your expertise, your assets. And so if you think of your personal brand, you should really be thinking about who you are. You shouldn't be thinking of it as any other entity, any other image. It's not separate from who you are. It is who you are at your core and the value that you can bring in the space that you're in.
That is brilliant. So it is definitely about you. You don't leave yourself out. You are actually the center of this brand. I love that.
It's your personal capital. It's your, you know, when businesses have their assets or they have products or services, you as an individual, you are your brand. You are your own brand. And the assets that you have and the equity that you have is tied up in your personality. It's tied up in the skills that you have. It's tied up in what you believe and the standards that you live by. And so I don't want people to think that they have to create a brand separate from themselves. It is yourself that we bring to the table. And any environment, any niche, any space that you're in, we have to return to the self and recognize that individually we have equity, we have assets that we can leverage for all sorts of opportunities that we want to achieve.
Awesome. You see, ladies and gentlemen, I told you this lady is amazing. So that was just a brilliant start. So just a follow up on that. What then is the difference between a corporate brand and a personal brand, because they're both brands, but they're two different things.
When you say corporate brand, do you mean like a business? That's what you mean?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
there are people who think that this is my personal brand and it's about me personally, and then I should have a professional brand. But I mean, your brand, you should be so inclusive of who you are that you take your brand wherever you go. So when you know, because personal branding emerges from the world of marketing and the world of
Right.
business. And when you think back to the American West, when they had cattle farming and they needed to differentiate products. And so the brand was to attach your brand. This was a women's summit I attended during the pandemic.
Okay. Mm.
So you can brand your product. And so personal branding, once people started to use the term personal branding, then they began to start thinking about it in terms of products and themselves as products. But human beings are complex. We are
Right.
not products. We don't want to commodify the self, and particularly for Black people. And you know, we're Africans, and the
Yes.
majority of the people watching this are of African descent. And we were branded as slaves. We were
Right.
taken from, and a lot of Jamaicans, Caribbean people were taken from the west coast of Africa. And we were seen at the time as property, as products, and we were literally branded on the skin. So branding is not a word that Black people should really be comfortable with. But
Right.
you know, it's an industry term, and that's the term of the moment. So that's the term we're using. But we don't want to see ourselves commodified. We don't want to see ourselves as products. And a lot of the gurus that talk
Right.
about personal branding are simply using the same techniques that marketers have used to brand products. However, products are inanimate. They don't have feelings, they don't have emotions. But you want to see human beings considering themselves as really complex people with emotions, with passion,
Right.
with experiences, with values. And so the fundamental difference between the corporate brand is and the personal brand is that we're human. We're human,
Right.
and we are molded by our experiences and our beliefs and how we have been historicized, the culture that we grew up in. And when we bring our value, and I have been global in my experience. I was educated in Jamaica and then New Zealand, then I went off to work in Australia. And so I'm bringing my Jamaicanness everywhere. I'm bringing my personality, I'm bringing my values with me in these different contexts. And so for corporate brand, you really have to see it as, okay, yes, this is a product. It has these elements to it. This is why it's beautiful. This is
Right.
why you should buy it. But when it comes to human beings, it is meant to be deeper. It is meant to be more
Right.
complex. And that is why I encourage people to figure out what their personal brand is so that they can make a unique and distinctive contribution to the niche and to the job and to the environment and to the business space that they're in.
Okay. Okay. Now, I want to ask this next question because when I listened to one of your interviews, a gentleman asked you this question, and I think it would be interesting just to hear you, answer it again, which is about timing. When is it the right time to think about personal branding
I'm glad you asked me that question
as,
because
as an individual?
it's one of the questions I answered in this book. And the first time I considered it was when I was looking at my own personal brand. And at the time, I already had a PhD. I already had a lot of experience. And you'd think that I would know what my brand is. And then I looked at Dory Clark's book, and Dory Clark has a book called Reinventing You. And she's one of the foremost thinkers on personal branding in the United States. And she was writing about the occasion when you should really pay attention to your personal brand. And so on page 12, I think this is, I wrote that if you're at a new phase in your life and you want to be known for something else, then it's time to look at your personal brand. If you've been laid off from your job, which in the pandemic, so many people lost their jobs, or so many
Yes,
people didn't have a
absolutely.
job in the first place. And you need to ensure that you're in the best position possible to get another job. Then you need to be looking back at
Right,
your value. If you want to move up in the company that you're in, and you need to take control of your reputation, obviously within that environment, that's the time to pay attention to your personal brand. Number four, if you're trying to win a promotion but you feel like you're being held back, and there are a lot of professionals
right,
who are working in industries and they feel like they're not moving ahead, they're not being tapped for opportunities. And this is a time now to pay attention to your personal brand so that you can position yourself strategically to take advantage of the promotions and the opportunities in your industry. There are some people who want to move into a different area of the company. Say you're in legal and you want to move to HR, or you're in sales and you want to move to finance or communication, then that's a code switch. And people don't naturally tap you to
right,
say, oh, let's move from finance over into communications, because you're assuming that all of your experience is in the financial area. So that
right,
is a point when you need to focus on showing that you have communicative talent, and your soft skills can probably help you to lead a team in another area of the company. If you're just starting out in your career, and I meet a lot of these people because I'm a professor, and so you have a lot of seniors who are about to enter the job market, and here is an opportunity for them now to build a powerful resume. A lot of them don't have the experience yet, and this is always a
right.
challenge. Employers are always asking for experience, and
Yes,
young people just heading out of college don't have that experience. Well, you can still build a powerful resume based on who you are at your core, the value that you bring, the skills that you have, and even the internships and some of the volunteer opportunities that you've done. You would have learned a
yes,
lot of things. And so you still have resources to build a strong personal brand so that when you're interviewing, you can stand out. If you're changing careers, you want to be an entrepreneur, and you decide, wow, I'm tired of this 9 to 5, I need to start my own business, then you have to make a compelling case as well, why
yes,
people should buy from you, why should they buy your products and your services. And for me, the reason I decided to come back to the drawing table and pay attention to my own personal brand, even after a successful career as a broadcast journalist and a political speechwriter, I felt at the time that I was multi-skilled. I was like a Jane of all trades. I could do everything. And I felt very confused post PhD, because I thought, wow, I feel like I'm all over the place. And I give you a
right,
story. I went for an interview once, and the dean, I think it was academic jobs I was looking for, and the dean said, your resume is eclectic. Now, I didn't
okay,
think it was a compliment. I mean, I am glad that I was shortlisted. So, as eclectic as my resume was, I was shortlisted for this position. But in the conversation with him, this is what he said. And I didn't think it was a compliment. I remember knowing my brand at the time. I knew what I brought to the table. So, I remember saying to him that what you see is the number of jobs that I've had in different areas, in politics, in entertainment, in journalism. But if you really read my resume, you'll realize that the common thread is strategic communication. And this is the
right,
value that I can bring in terms of helping students to get where they want to be. And so if you don't know your personal brand, such a question would floor you. Such a statement would make you feel less confident about your
yes,
chances in the position, because you don't know how to really answer such a question and how to articulate the true value that you bring to the table. And that's why it's essential to recognize that you have a personal brand, and to
okay.
define it and leverage it.
Yeah. No, that's brilliant. And thanks for sharing that story. You just brought it home so that, we have a clear and a better idea. Now, my next question is about, people who want to start businesses. They start out, they have great business ideas. They design great logos. They have a website. They open social media pages to announce their businesses, and yet they're not successful. They feel, I have a great idea. I think it's going to work. And I've done one, two,
Yes.
three. So, what in your view is missing for such individuals?
In the past, branding. And I think a lot of those entrepreneurs are thinking brand marketing, because in the past, forget about social media for a minute. When we only had traditional media, you could create a product, you could uh, make a website, put up some photos on that website of the product, and people would visit this website. They would see your advertising on the television. They want to see whether there's quality. If it was at a cheaper price than another competitor, then they would be attracted to the product. There's no need to know who you are and who is the owner of this product. Their focus was on the product. Now, in a digital environment, the proliferation of social media, 3.45 billion people are online. So there's a
Right.
virtual world that we're all existing on. And suddenly in this world, people are more interested in connecting with you, not your product. They want to know you, and they're following you. They want to hear what you have to say. And then if you have a signature product, they're like, wow, you have a signature product. Okay, I'm listening. I want to hear that. So what entrepreneurs have to do these days is to come from behind the product, come from behind the product, because people want to buy the product, but they want to know who you are. They want to be able to connect with you. They want to know why you're in the water business. Why is this significant? Why is this water so interesting? How did you start this business? What struggles did you go through when you were doing this? And once they've connected with you at a certain level, then they're more inclined. This is not to say that they won't follow your business independently and you won't get any sales. I am saying to really enhance your business and the products that you're selling, people, you have to come from behind the product, connect with your audience, and start talking to them where they are and at their level.
Yeah. Wow, that's brilliant. Come from behind your product and tell a story. Yeah. So there is a definite change in the trend as far as the market is concerned, and you want to align. Yes.
The market has changed. The market has become digital, and the digital space requires different tools. Right. Nobody's interested in you just saying, oh, buy this book, buy this book, buy this book. Oh my God, it's so great. They're interested in you telling us, well, what the hell is in this book? And why, how does it help me? How does it solve the problems that I have? I am having professional challenges. I'm having business challenges. How does this product serve my needs? Right. And if we can understand how the product helps me.
Yes.
Not you're not supporting me, because I you know, when there's some groups I'm a part of, and the Black entrepreneurs, mostly the groups I'm in are Black entrepreneurs, and they would say, nobody's supporting me. The people should support each other. But you shouldn't be looking for support if you're running a business. You're supposed to have a quality product. You're supposed to be able to articulate who you are and why this product can solve the problems that they have. And then you'd see a difference in the sales that you get.
Yeah, I've often had marketers these days say that what you sell is not just a product or service, you're also selling a solution. And that's what you're selling. Right.
Yeah. And I you as well. You're selling your vision.
Yes.
You're selling your story. And if you are able to communicate yourself and communicate your vision to prospective employers, prospective clients, prospective companies, then you're in a better position to succeed in your career and in your business.
Okay, that's excellent. I love that. I tell my clients all the time, your brand is about you, but it's also for your audience. Okay, so then this next question, maybe you've touched a bit on it, but what are the key benefits of personal branding? You know, I know when you were giving some answers, you've touched a bit on it, but are there any other key elements you want our audience to be aware of?
And I'm sorry to be plugging this book, but it has a lot of great content. But one of the things I said in this book, first of all, is that it offers recognition. You do, the reason you try to define and position your brand is because now we are existing in a more competitive, a fiercely competitive job market and business environment, right? And so what personal branding does is to really enhance the recognition of yourself as an expert in your field. We know you know a lot of stuff, but
Right.
expertise is not what you know. Expertise is what you share. If nobody knows that you know, you're not an expert. So
Wow.
you're over here saying, I know a lot about this thing. I have good technical knowledge over here. If nobody knows, then you're not contributing and you will not have that kind of reputation that you seek. And talking about reputation, that the second strength of a personal brand and the benefit of it is that you can establish your reputation and credibility. If I'm seeing you do a certain activity consistently, and you offer quality service and you're always delivering, over time you develop a reputation and you can stand on that credibility. That's the credibility that you sell. Let me put down this pen so that people think I'm teaching when I have this pen in my hand, so I'll stop.
Well, teachers, we're here to be taught.
It can win a steady stream of clients as well. Because if you're an entrepreneur, and I was watching a series of entrepreneurs every Saturday, I watch everything business or finance or investing, because I think that's a deficit in my education. And so I chanced upon South African entrepreneurs in this fantastic series, and they're talking about entrepreneurs who have left other countries across the continent. So they talked to Kenyans, and there was a guy from Nigeria, and they've established really successful businesses in South Africa. And they were asking me, and some of them, they started on the street, I mean, literally peddling goods on the street. A couple of them were homeless, and they now have empires. And when you think of how they articulated who they are, it was so interesting to me that they were telling their story. I'm from Nairobi, and we had a family of 60 siblings, one guy said, and I became aware that I love my siblings, but I was in competition with them. If I didn't arrive at the table at a certain time, I would lose my meal, somebody would eat it. If I didn't go to bed at a certain time, I would lose my space, because it was 60 of them. And so he learned competition, and he learned how to stand out. And so your personal brand literally increases your value, because once you get to know your equity and the assets that you have as an individual, then that is how you're able to stand on your strength, and you're leveraging. You're not competing with anybody else in the sense of oh, I'm being jealous of them. You know what your strength is, and you're going to lead with that. And you can establish partnerships with influential people. It is through positioning my own personal brand that I met some wonderful people like you, doing great work. And I like the fact that you have a PhD in branding and brand marketing. So you're coming to the table with research knowledge and information that I don't have. And I think for me, when I connect with people like you who know more in a particular area, I think that's strength, because I can collaborate with you. And people see that you are of value. People reach out to you for opportunities. You don't no longer have to knock on the door. People come and knock on your door because they're seeing the value that you're delivering. And one of the things that it helps you to stay competitive. It makes you a more confident person, because one of the things that I did, I was very confused after my PhD. I was having a crisis of confidence, because suddenly I didn't know what my next move was. But once I defined my personal brand and I owned it, and I was secure in the value that I have, I knew exactly, okay, I'm going to seek jobs in academia. This is what I'm going to try to do next. And so I had a pathway, I had a trajectory, I had a map, I had a journey. Because if you don't have a clear trajectory, you're just going to be stumbling along like a log, and you're going to be blowing anywhere the wind takes you. That's where you're going to be going. And to me, that is the opposite of success. That is the opposite of what you want to do. And also, I worked with entertainers and politicians where their personal reputation is their equity. And people vote for you on the basis of your integrity. People want to attach to people who they feel align, their values align with
Right.
them. And so personal branding can actually restore your reputation as well. Say for whatever reason,
Okay.
your image hits a snag. Something happens
Right.
and you know you have negative scrutiny on social media, and it happens quite a bit. This
Okay.
past summer, I had a couple of clients who reached out to me and they had 50,000 upwards 100,000 followers. One of them was published in the New York Times, and a letter was going to be put out that would put her in a negative light. And so she was reaching out to me to have a conversation about crisis communication. And so if you have established a favorable image in the eyes of the audiences and the marketplace, which is important to you, if you hit a snag and there's something negative that's happening, people will say, I know Hume Johnson. I know Nthabeleng Rammile. I know what kind of person she is. And then they
Right.
would be willing to give you a chance because you've already, through your personal brand, built up a stores of favorability
Right.
in their eyes. If they don't know you, you don't have a personal brand, they have no idea who you are,
Right.
they are less inclined to give you the benefit of the doubt. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's brilliant. And since you touched a bit on the book, now I want to ask you specifically about this book. Why did you write this book, and how can we get hold of this book? I got mine on Amazon. Is there
Yeah.
any other way?
It
Yeah.
is available on Amazon, but to answer your question, it's called Brand You Reinvent Yourself and Redefine Your Future. Why did I write this book? At the time when you know, it's so interesting. When I worked on my own personal brand, I wasn't intending to work on anybody else's. I
Right.
I had already felt like I'd done a decade with entertainers and with politicians trying to raise their profile and to work on their brand image in the marketplace. And I was willing to settle in this academic job, write a couple of books, and you know, but people would ask me about their career, how do they move to the next level? And having coached people, I would do one-on-one consultations, and I would go through hours and hours of
Mhm.
intense training with professionals in their industry, a lot of diplomats and executives and politicians, really successful individuals, but I didn't have anything to leave with them. And
Right.
also, there was a discussion taking place on social media, which position branding as something about your social media. There was this
Right.
notion out there, which I thought was gaining traction, that all you needed to do to build your brand
Hmm.
was to tweak your social media, get a lot of likes, get a lot of following. And once you have this really large following, then you have a strong brand. But that's not a strong brand. That's a popular brand. A strong
Okay.
brand has different elements to it of what your values are, what your skills are, you know, what your resources are. And I thought I needed to intervene in the conversation, not
Hmm.
just yapping away on social media saying that's not what your brand is. And I felt like I was a lone voice in the dark, shouting atop my lungs. And
Hmm.
then I thought, and a friend of mine, Carol Beckford, she was with the communications team for sprint icon Usain Bolt at the time. And then I think she had moved on to the West Indies Cricket Board. And you guys are familiar with cricket in South
Yes.
Africa?
Yes.
Yes. And when we were talking about these ideas, she said, you know, actually, we're doing a similar branding exercise with some of the cricketers. And here are some questions I think that you should add. That time I wasn't even writing the book, but she said, here are some
Hmm.
questions that I think you should add to this book that is in your mind. And I got down to writing it because I needed to intervene in the conversation to say, your brand is not about your social media. Your social
Wow.
media is a reflection of your brand. It's a communicative tool that you use to convey who you are. It is not a substitute for who
Wow,
you are.
that's
And
brilliant.
so this book was an introduction, and hopefully this year I will get to write my second book, which will deepen the conversation about personal branding and come at it from a more scholarly level, and to question the response. Why are people building their brands? What is it a response to? I think that conversation needs to be had. That's my
Yeah,
next.
absolutely, absolutely. And I want to encourage everybody who's watching, get hold of her first book so
Oh,
that when she brings the
it's
second one,
available on Amazon. Guys, it's available on Amazon.com.
yeah,
And I think it's about maybe 25 US dollars. So
yeah,
it's
it's not, yeah, it's not,
reasonable.
it is very reasonable. And I love that. So in the book, you talk about 5 steps, which is really how you can engage the personal branding process. So can you just take us through those 5 basic steps?
Okay, let me look because my table of contents, I think, was the 5 steps. Yeah. I had number one, building a compelling persona. I thought that when people, there's a question that is often asked at interviews: tell me about yourself.
Mm,
People would start reeling off their occupational skills. And I thought that was not an effective approach to it. Because if somebody asked me, which somebody did from one of those Japan banks I had a conversation with yesterday, and he started by saying, tell me about yourself. And I started with
mm,
something very personal. It was snowing, and I
right,
said, I dislike snow, and I dislike cauliflower, and I dislike celery. This is, I mean, he was laughing so hard, but this is critical information about myself. I also told him I really like talking to people. I can yap. I love meeting new people. I like learning about their stories. And for
right.
me, I remember him saying, I've asked this question 100 times and nobody gets personal. And I said, but if you ask me about myself, it is personal. People don't meet your skills when they meet you. They don't meet your credentials. They don't meet your degree in marketing. They don't meet your PhD in accounting. They don't. They
Yeah,
meet who you are. And if they're going
absolutely.
to work with somebody, if they're brilliant and you think they're not a good person to work with, they don't have integrity, they're not warm, they're not
Mm,
approachable, I'm not going to enjoy myself. It doesn't matter how brilliant they are, you're going to move on to someone else.
absolutely.
And so I
Yes.
think that people, number one, you should reflect on who you are as of your personality. What aspects of your
Mm,
personality do you consider to be a strength? Which aspects do people compliment you on? Which aspects you think you could use? And the global pandemic has taught a lot of people, even though workplaces were shouting in all the surveys they've done, workplaces everywhere in the world, they're saying I can't hire good employees because they do not have the kind of workplace skills. They were talking about
mhm.
social skills. And if you
Wow.
can discover what you are, what is the strength of your personality, what aspects of it you can use and leverage, which as do you have a warm personality? Can you develop relationships easily? Are
Hmm.
you a team player? All of these things are critical in an environment. Then secondly, step two, having known who you are, then what are you good at? You know,
Mhm.
what are you exceptional at? I prefer to ask people, what are you exceptional at? And some of my students would say, exceptional, I'm good at so and so. So I'm not saying good. What are you exceptional at?
Exceptional. Yes,
If
I've
you
got
are
you.
not exceptional, what thing are you good at, and you're passionate enough about it to learn so much more about it that you can become exceptional at this
Exceptional.
thing,
Yes.
that you can be associated with this thing, that you can be known for this thing, that
Right.
when they talk about your niche and your industry, they call your name. And that's
Brilliant.
always something that is evolving. That's something that people have to work on. Step number three, then it's time. This is a foundation. You're building the foundations of your brand by looking at your values and your skills and your personality. And then you create your brand. It's not a false image. It has to be authentically who you are at your core. It shouldn't be fake. It shouldn't be something that you just decide I am going to be that. It should be something that you unearth from inside of
Right.
who you are. And creating your brand means mapping all of the things that you found out about yourself in the first 3 steps. How do you map that? And I have a new online course where people can do that over several weeks. I give them time. Most people who work with me are they are mothers, they are workers, they're, so I give you a couple of weeks in between each
Right.
session, and I'll send you the link so that you can share. And if you
Sure.
guys are on my Instagram, then it's in the bio in my Instagram. And you have to create a marketing strategy for yourself. People begin on social media because they think their brand is about marketing themselves. You do have to find out what your brand is, and then you market the elements of it which you think is a strength and that can give you what you want. And so creating a marketing strategy is an important aspect where you're mapping your career, the strengths that you can bring to a workplace. If you want to start a business, what value can you bring? And then communicating your brand, being seen, being heard, not being invisible. Some people are good
Yes.
workers and they hold their head down and they work and they say that my work speaks for me. It doesn't. One time outside of social media, I guess it did. But
Ah,
nowadays, you can be working, but it doesn't work for you. The boss is looking at the other person who is putting up their hand and making those
yes, the
presentations,
vocal.
and they're more visible. I'm not saying you can't have too much, you can't be overly visible and not do any
Right.
work. That's not what I'm
Right.
talking about. I mean, doing the work first, being solid at your job, and then trying to be a little bit more visible. You don't have to be on social media. I talk a lot about branding yourself offline. If they took social media away, what would your brand
And
be?
who are you outside that?
Because
Yes.
outside of when you think of people like Einstein, they didn't exist. Frederick Douglass, my favorite African American
Yeah.
activist, they didn't exist in an age of social media, but they had strong brands that still persist over time. Nelson
Yeah.
Mandela
Yeah.
was not on social media.
Oh no.
What he was doing, oh, he was aligning his values of freedom
Oh
for his
yeah.
country, for change. And those are fundamental values that is at the core of the Nelson Mandela brand. And
Okay.
so that resonated around the world. He was a lawyer, but that wasn't the aspect of him that was promoted. It was his fundamental human values. So there are other areas of your brand that you can decide when you're done the excavation work, which aspect of it is a strength and which aspect of it that you want to move forward with. And then my last step for me is recognizing that your brand is always evolving, and
Right.
that you have to make an ongoing commitment to it. We were only as good as our last performance. And so
Right.
you have to keep working at it and keep improving it.
Yeah. No, that's excellent. And when I go through your steps, what I love is that what you are saying is that through personal branding, you don't have to be limited. Like you just used Nelson Mandela. He was a lawyer, so he was just not confined into that
He was
space.
not. Exactly.
Yeah, his personal brand allowed him to be so much more,
Exactly.
which is the beauty of a personal brand. I love that.
Because
And
so for example, if you limit your personal brand to the job that you're in or to the profession that you're in, then you really haven't owned what your brand truly is, because your brand is who you are at your core, not this thing that you can do. It's more than that.
absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And I feel like you've sort of answered my next question, which was if a person is starting out, where do they start? Your answer is go to step one.
Step one, reflection. Reflect on your skills, reflect on your personality, your values, reflect
Okay.
on the things that you believe in. What is fundamental to you? What do you believe in? What standards do you live by? And if you
Right.
come from that perspective, then your brand has more credibility. It has that authenticity. we're impressed by skills and we're impressed by qualifications, but in 2 minutes we're not. We're bored. We're over it. Like, okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So we have like 12 minutes now. Now, I want to ask for specific groups of people, for example, let's start with the graduate. You mentioned graduates, they don't have experience, they just got out, and every company is saying, we want somebody who has at least 5 years of experience. So for a graduate who's looking for work and they don't have experience, what would you say should be the focus of their personal brand?
They should be trying to build their resume. Build their resume around the skills that they already have, around the experience that they have. And when you say to graduates, what experience? I don't have experience. I mean, the summer job you had at the pub. What did you learn there? And then suddenly they would say, oh, I learned a lot of customer service. I was able to manage conflicts. It's extraordinary that I was leading, I was supervising another person. And so I have leadership skills. And suddenly they realize that they discounted their life. So their life is going on and discounted it. And I say to new graduates, your skills are skills, your personality and the fact that you can talk to people easily at the diner that you worked at, and you were able to manage several tasks at the same time. Those are skills that we try to unearth for new graduates so that they can build a more powerful resume and give them the chance to be able to articulate themselves in a stronger way at a job interview.
That's excellent. Excellent. And then the second category is career professionals. Here is somebody not really looking for a promotion. They're just in a position at the moment. What should be the focus of their personal brand?
They should want something else, though. You say that they're not looking for a promotion. Maybe they should. I don't brand people for where they are. I brand you for where you're going. And so you're discovering your personal brand and you're defining it so that you can level up in your career, that you can take advantage of new opportunities, even if it's not a formal promotion, that you can take on new responsibilities, that you can learn more about your field, And so everybody should want to have a sense of the value that they can bring to the table. Sometimes we think that employers have done us a favor by employing us. We are contributors to their mission and their objective as well. So finding out your personal brand helps you to be more focused in the job that you're in.
That is so good. And then to a career professional who just saw a possible, promotion and they want to apply for that, what should they do to their personal brand so that they're more prepared for that promotion that they want?
They should be auditing their value at this point. All of the talents, all of the projects that they've worked on, all of the experiences that they bring to bear on the table. What are some of the outcomes that they have done once they've led a project? What are the results that they have achieved? They have to audit those things and be able to communicate their value. Now is not to say I'm qualified in this and that, or or recite your job description. Now is to show results from the work that you have done, from your leadership, from your skills at project management and marketing, and showing that, okay, I led this particular marketing campaign and we were able to increase or viewership or whatever by 50% in this quarter. And this is the kind of value that I will bring to the project that we're working on over here. You have to be able to show results and communicate your value in a very precise way at that point.
Okay, that's super. And then to now a professional who's in a career, now they want to pivot into running their own business. In other words, they want to be an entrepreneur. So there's obviously a shift from one space to a fairly new space. So what about them? How do they work on their personal brands?
New skills. This is upskilling and transferring. First of all, it's transferring your soft skills. If you don't have hard skills, for example, when I transferred formally from thinking of myself as a professor to an entrepreneur, even though I still have my job as a professor, but I see myself now as an entrepreneur, which I didn't in the past. I just didn't have skills. I didn't have those occupational tangible skills that people talk about. I didn't have, and I wrote some of those, that I didn't have negotiation skills or legal documents when I was setting up my business. I was reading stuff that was like a foreign language. You have to be a salesperson, you have to be a marketer. You have to think of hiring people. So you're looking at human resources. You have to look at products and quality and stuff that I'm not interested in. But these are things that I needed to know. But what I knew was that I had soft skills that I could bring to the table, soft skills in terms of I could communicate what my product was about and how I could solve problems. How does your problems, what are the pain points of the audience that you want to buy your product? To what extent does your product solve those issues that they have? These are the questions that people wanting to pivot from their 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship need to ask. Not just focus on the product, focus on you and focus on the audience. What experience do you want them to have with your product? Do not chase money. One of the entrepreneurs on the South African series talked about money is a byproduct of the value that you're bringing to other people. So when they come to your business, they're coming not just because you have a cheap product or they have something, they're coming to have fun. They're coming to increase their own potential. They're coming to solve a problem through your product or service, and they're paying you for the value. They have no other way of compensating you. So they will pay you for the value that they think your product or service will bring to their life.
Okay, that's brilliant. And I'm looking at my time and I can't believe that.
Okay, I have a few minutes. So I don't know if your audience has questions that they could ask, if there are any on your Facebook page, I'm not sure.
Okay, I will check. Maybe because now I think I'm not going to be able to.
Oh, it's night. I forget it's night.
Yeah, it's like almost 7 p.m. And
okay, people are having dinner.
Yeah, I'm gonna select now because I see I won't be able to ask all of my questions, but I want to ask this one. How does a company benefit if it invests in sending their employees on personal branding trainings instead of just focusing on their brand as a company? Because this is a question that I get asked a lot, especially in the business school in my area. They were like, companies need to have a good reason why they should send these people to be trained in personal branding. They get it that, yes, they can come for financial management and strategic management, but personal branding is almost like a personal development thing, not so important. So how do you respond to that?
It's essential though, because that's old world thinking. In the past, we could think like that because you have situations where you could stay in your job forever, so you didn't need a personal brand. These days, employees are ambassadors of your product. They are the ambassadors of your mission. Your employees are assets in your organization. When they know what their brand is, you get to use their talent and their value in more effective ways. They get to contribute to the mission of the organization in a very precise way. In fact, these days, when you look at marketing, we want to see the businesses or the business owner becoming the face of their business. People want to know who they are, not just their product. And so the business person also has to realize that people are more inclined, 536% more people listen to the message of the CEO and the business owner, 536% more than they listen to the messages which are on their Facebook or on their social media. People will follow the entity, but they prefer to hear from the business owner, the CEO. They want to to see the face of the organization. They want to connect with those people. And when they know what the values of this person is, they're trying to see whether the values that the organization purports, do you as a CEO or business owner share those values? It should be the same. It shouldn't be misaligned. So it's more than personal development. Every single employee is an ambassador of your mission, of your product, of your service. And when they speak on their own social media, they're also communicating the messages about the organization. They're communicating the values that they believe in, which we hope should be aligned with the organization that they work for. Yeah.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for that. And maybe just the last note, what are your thoughts? What are your last thoughts that you want to leave with us as we've come to the end of this session? I would have loved to have more time. Maybe in the future we can talk.
I'm happy to take a couple more questions if you do have more.
Yeah, I've just gone through my Facebook. Somebody saying this book is a must-have, you know. Okay, this one, I'm not seeing any specific question, just a lot of comments.
I mean, questions from you, I thought. If you had more questions on your...
Okay. I thought, all right.
I know you're a little squeezed for time, but I do have a few minutes.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Right, now let me ask you this one then. How can individuals then build their personal brands along the companies they work for? You know, how can you not feel overwhelmed and somewhere hidden in the corner for a company you work for? How can you still stand with your personal brand even though you're working for this mega company?
But your brand is not the job title that you have. Your brand is not the position. The brand is your value. And so you're sitting on this desk. You are actually serving your organization with your brand. So
Right.
your values and your skills and your expertise and all of the things that you bring to the table as an employer, you are using that talent and you're supporting the mission and the business objective of this organization or place that you work at. When you leave that job, you bring your brand elsewhere. And so you're building your brand for you. And while you are working for a particular organization, they are benefiting from your brand. They are superlatively better, hopefully, from their encounter with you.
Okay, that's brilliant. And then just another question for entrepreneurs. An entrepreneur who is starting out versus an entrepreneur who's already an entrepreneur and they just want to grow their business further. What should each do how should they work on their personal brands so that they are relevant to where they are?
Remember earlier, I talked about the entrepreneur who is just trying to pivot into entrepreneurship and being able to transfer skills that they already have to the industry and being able to learn, putting themselves in the position to learn about business, to learn about human relations, to learn about HR, to learn about financial management, all of those skills that they're going to need to marketing, whatever, to establish their business. If you're already established, what you want to do now is to become the face of your business. We want to know more about your values. We want to know more about your story. We want to know what challenges you went through when you were starting this business. Recently, one of the iconic businessmen in Jamaica, Gordon Butch Stewart, he's the owner of the Sandals Resorts. I don't know if you guys heard about the chain of hotels. It's very, very popular around the world. And he died recently, and everybody, we're complimenting his genius as an entrepreneur. But then he started selling air conditioner. He had a little bit of money, but he had a vision. And I think that entrepreneurs must get obsessed with their vision and obsessed with the results that they can offer people and the experience that they want people to have in their business. You also have to get obsessed with corporate social responsibility. If you're an established entrepreneur and you're doing well, what are you doing for others? Are you just making money for the sake of it? How are
Hmm.
you serving others? And recently when Jeff Bezos, the news came out that he stepped down from Amazon,
Hmm.
and then people were, there were a lot of commentary around that. But I thought that this was ultimately going to be positive for his personal brand. He doesn't have the best personal brand right now because people are thinking that poor workplace conditions, poor wages, and people are talking about Amazon in a very negative way. And whatever
Hmm.
happens at your company redounds to you. People
Yes.
interpret what's happening at your company because you're in charge of it. The buck has to stop somewhere. But
Right.
now you can't just make money for the sake of it. Now that you're the richest man in the world, then I think that being the head of Amazon Foundation, now he can actually activate certain aspects of his brand where he's working for the community. He's looking at
Right.
stuff for the climate and the earth, and those things will redound very positively for his personal brand because finally
Hmm.
you're going to use some of that wealth to contribute to resolving some of the issues that are plaguing our world. And I think entrepreneurs have to look around them. If you've benefited from the community and all of us have bought your products and made you wealthy and you've built an empire, and this is for medium and large entrepreneurs, how are you giving back to your community? What messages are you putting out
Hmm.
in the marketplace when you're a speaker? Is it an opportunity for you now to write a book, to tell other entrepreneurs how you did it? What is your
Right.
brand story? Where can you offer advice and encouragement to other people who want to get where you at? I think that once you achieve success, there's an obligation to send the ladder back down for other
That
people
is
to climb up.
that is so good. That is so good. Now, one of the critical components of personal branding is uniqueness. There could be 10, 100 other people who are offering the same service or selling the same product. So, how can a person highlight their uniqueness, in their personal brand in such a way that you give the audience that reason to choose you over others?
Everybody has a unique value proposition, and you just have to find out what that is. I usually tell my clients to start personal or start with their values because everybody in if you're in career, everybody has a degree and everybody has a master's. Everybody's selling the same product, but what's the experience that they'll get with yours? And secondly, what is your story? Everybody comes to this thing differently. Everybody's journey is different. Share your own journey, share your challenges, share your own perspectives on the industry that you're in. Share your own values. What are the things that you believe in? Show people how the energy that you put into it, how tenacious you are. Show them your own equity. And I keep going
Mm.
back to that one of those interviews where the guy is running a gym and he said he didn't have anything else to offer but his strength. He was a boxer and he could
Hmm.
carry all heavy loads and stuff. And he realized that this was his equity, his strength. And so fitness became part of the value added that he brought to his industry. So when people buy your products, when they come into contact with you, what is the specific experience? What is that takeaway? What is that ultimate thing that you want them to experience when they encounter your product? What do you want them to know about you? And
Right.
that is where, what is your why? Why
Hmm.
are you doing this? Why is this thing that you're doing so important? And if you start and if you come back to you and
Hmm.
you lead everything through the prism of who you are, then your brand will naturally stand out from other people.
That's brilliant. I love that. And lastly, What are your final thoughts? What do you want to leave us with? And by the way, this book is available on Amazon. I'm just saying it again in case you joined us later. Go to amazon.com. I bought the book. I'm loving the book. Go get the book. Get it on Kindle. You know, you get it instantly like that. Unless you're old school, you want to wait for a hard copy. But now with the pandemic, everything is slow. So try to opt for the Kindle. It's also excellent. It works very well. So, Dr. Hume, your final thoughts. What do you want to leave?
Final thoughts. You have a personal brand, whether you know it or not, whether you're cultivating it or not, whether you believe in it or not. You have a personal brand, and that brand exists in the minds of other people. So even if you are not defining your brand, someone else is, because someone else has a perception of you, and it may not be the accurate perception. It may not be the perception that you want out there. It may not be the complete picture that you would prefer that they have about you. So personal branding is an opportunity to give people information about who you are. It gives you an opportunity to associate yourself with something good and positive and strong. It also gives you an opportunity to add new information and create that brand awareness that people didn't have of you before. And it also gives you an opportunity to open doors, or to have doors open for you that you thought were closed. Yeah.
That is such a good way to finish off. I just want to say thank you once more. I definitely look forward to having you in the country one day. Like we have
Yes,
to meet.
my darling. When the world is round again, I
Yes,
shall be in South Africa. I look forward to
yes,
it.
absolutely. Or maybe I meet you in New York. We just have to get together. But
Yes.
thank you so much for sharing your time with us on this side of the world. I'm quite sure we've learned a lot, and all the best. And
Thank
I
you
hope,
so much.
yes, we look forward to that second book. I'm definitely getting it, and all of the best doing that as well.
Thank you, my darling. I appreciate this. I hope your South African audience learned something from this important conversation. And I hope that they don't take their brand for granted.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Right.
Goodbye.
Take care. Bye-bye.